Hi, welcome to another edition of hand-laid tracks and 3D printed trains with Socrates. Today we're taking a look at the tie cutter and gapper that you can use to make both straight and curved tracks. Because when you're making a straight track, it's basically a skeleton with two sets of ties and the rail going between them. The only thing else you have to add is some form of tie bed. I print my own 3D printed beds, but straight tracks and curved tracks, set of ties that are gapped, set of rails. Now, gapping those ties is actually a whole lot of effort, especially to do it accurately and easily. If you're doing them one at a time, it really takes a really long time. And in the end, this thing is an excellent little tool because you put the pieces in and snip them off to the proper length and you hit it with the file and you're almost instantaneously done. Now I start with the Fast Tracks cross ties. I think Clover House also sells them, but I bought a bunch from Fast Tracks in the US. They're expensive to import to Europe, so I just got a bunch, and this is what I'm using. So my jigs are all designs for the Fast Track. I think the Clover House is the same, but I haven't actually verified it. And you nip them off and slip them into the jig and tool, and you can snip them off to the proper length. File the ends, a quick bit of file with a T or a triangular file, and you make the gap through the middle and you prevent any cross shorts between your rails, and just like that you're done. This little jig will make 20 ties at once. So this is me just going through a quick demonstration of them, nipping off with the rail nippers the little pieces of tie from the frame. One end is nice and clean, but the other end is a bit rough, so I'll take a file and I try to clean off each of that far end. That way both ends of the tie are nice and clean, and you can slide it in one side, nip it off, flip it over, slide it in the other side, nip it off again. I then put that little side piece to the side, and because each of those ends now need to be filed again. So it takes 7 full-length strips of, again, I'm using the Fast Tracks ties, the longest that they offered, and each one makes 2 quick ties from the ends, and then you have to go ahead and clean up that middle piece with both ends to make it nice and clean on both ends. And then, well, you just really have to clean up one side actually, because that other side you end up throwing off because it has to be nipped off eventually. And when you finally are ready to put these into the jig, once everything's done, the last thing you'll do is hit it with a little bit of a file on the face of the piece, so where you solder it together it connects nicely. And these are very effective to make any kind of straight track or curved track. They all have a consistent thickness to the tie, and you could end up using quite a few of them. A piece of straight track takes about 11, and there's 20 individual pieces in this particular jig. It's marked with 5s, 5, 5, and 5, 5, so you can see real quickly what you're doing. I found with that triangular file that only one of the sides is really an effective file. So I have a little mark with a piece of pen on it so I know which one to use, and I always cut that one. I'm going to hit it real quick with a little cleaning brush, and you can see that the gaps are all nice and gapped through it, so you won't get a short. And for the most part they fall out, and the rest that don't you can poke out from the back, and just like that you've got 20 nicely gapped pieces, and you can go ahead and make yourself a piece of straight or curved track. The way, if you're using my system, I have the little jigs. In this case it's a straight jig, and basically, again, you want to make sure you hit it onto the file once to get it nice and clean. I'm not actually making this one, I'm just setting it up. And then you just slide the little ties into the jig, and with the clamps hold down a couple rails, and then you start doing the process of soldering each of the rails. I just recently made last week a video with that particular jig, so you can download these off of Thingiverse and make something yourself. And if you find it useful, I'd love to see what you made with my jigs. So thanks for watching. Like it on Thingiverse, and see you next week. Thanks. It's earlier and earlier when I have to videotape these things.